This chart shows the relationship between market lease rates and base lease rates for the entire commercial aircraft fleet. The picture painted by the lease rate curves is bleak. 90% of the fleet has market lease rate below base lease rate, and some 40% of aircraft have a market lease rate to base lease rate ratio that is worse than 2010 already. Market lease rates never recovered to the heights of the prior cycle, mainly due to increased lessor competition driven by new entrants to the space, lower costs of capital, and more diverse sources of funding. With cheaper debt and lower expectations from equity, a lessor could accept lower lease rates and still achieve their required rate of return. While we started to see some leasing activity in the latter part of Q2 and going into Q3, it was sometimes difficult to reconcile the types of data points that we captured with our standard long-term dry lease definitions. Our current lease definition is for a typical lease, and at this point in time, the typical lease is not the same as it was a year ago or even 6 months ago. Almost all leases being proposed and signed have variable rent incentives to begin with. In other words, the airline pays a rate per hour only for the hours that they fly instead of a fixed monthly rent. Often these variable rents have no minimum number of hours, so some airlines can pay zero rent if they do not fly the aircraft at all, but other lessors do stipulate a minimum monthly rent even if the aircraft is not flown. The periods for incentives range from 6 months to 2 years, with 12 months being the most common, before stepping up to fixed monthly rent. After this initial power by the hour period, lessors are attempting, sometimes successfully, to step up to fixed monthly rates so that there are different monthly rates in phases over the total term of the lease, which for a used aircraft can still be up to 6 years. In the current environment, leases starting with a PBH term are normal, and the only alternative is to park the aircraft and wait until a fixed monthly rate is achievable. Most lessors prefer to take variable rent payments and save themselves storage and insurance costs, allowing the airline to maintain the aircraft in airworthy condition even if lease revenue is low or nil. Our lease rate opinions reflect fixed rent that is achievable after an initial variable rent period is over.